sharing together on this evening. My name is Jonathan Hill, and I have the distinct honor of serving as chair of the board for Imagination Leads. And we want to welcome you to our Black History Fireside chat on tonight, returning Lurie favors, which will be moderated by Ms. Tanya Golden Ball. So tonight, this evening is powered by Imagination Leads, the Power Coalition for Equity and Justice, and a host of other community partners. And we're excited to see you in this place on this evening. Do me a favor, why don't you touch your neighbor and look him in the eye and tell him, don't you look good? Look back at him and tell him, I know. We're excited all these good-looking people are here tonight. We hope that you checked in at the front desk. If you do not, please make sure you do that before you depart. But secondly, if you have your phones, I want you to follow our social media page on Facebook and Imagination Leads. This looks like the Facebook crowd. So if you're on there, make sure you go follow us on Facebook, Imagination Leads, like this and follow button. We greatly appreciate that. You Instagram? Well, so we're not on Instagram, so that's why I said Facebook. You follow us already, we appreciate that. We all follow us the likes we can get. And so this organization was founded in 2017 by Judge Erica Green to connect. Go ahead and celebrate Judge Green. Go ahead, we can celebrate one. To connect and promote awareness of literacy, cultural experiences, and leadership development for young Black girls and communities of color. If you want more information about the organization, please visit imaginationleads.net. And while you're there, there's a little blue button that says donate. Be sure to hit that tab and donate to the great organization and work that we are seeking to do. And so tonight we have an opportunity to experience the greatness, the beauty, and the intellect of Black girl magic at its best. So I'm excited about our discussion tonight, and we want to begin by celebrating some community partners who are here with us. If we were in family court, I believe in Division B, I would say all rise to greet the judge, but we're not going to do that tonight. But I do want you to celebrate our founder, Judge Erica Green, as she comes forward.
Thank you, President Hill, and thank you all for being here tonight. Happy Black History Month. Come on, happy Black History Month. Y'all know I love being Black. So had to say it. Imagination League started in 2017, as President Hill stated. Most importantly, it started with a great group of board members who had been on the front lines with me, listening to all of the things I wanted to do and bring to Baton Rouge, and they stayed with me the whole time. And so at this time, I want to honor 5 board members who will be leaving me, but not leaving from the work and the community outreach. And so Mr. Hill will go down to the bottom, and Ms. Langley will come and help as well. If you can give a round of applause to our board members, Ray and Carter, and if you can come forward. Linda Green. That's my mama. Alicia Boykin in her absence. Give a round of applause. She really does work well with us. Natasha Carter-Benoit. And Jabari Green. I don't see him, but you can give him a round of applause. If the board members can stand down there with Mr. Hill and take a picture, I don't know what again, these women and men have dedicated their time and efforts, their money. They have listened to me come up with many programs, and so I just want to honor them as they end their 7 years with Imagination League. That's 2 terms. So you know, when board members leave, we get a new set, and we're happy to acknowledge, if you can stand and wave to the crowd, 3 of our new board members who have been volunteers with the organization before, who have been donators, and who have been great partners. Sophia Riley, Destiny Davis, and Ms. Ethel Clay. Now that I got the board members out the way, As I stated earlier, it takes a lot of effort to make events like this happen and community partnerships. I want to first acknowledge our title sponsor, and if you're with our coalition, just wave your hands. Oh, you guys are Power Coalition. Hey. And Power Coalition has been doing advocacy work and social justice work in the community, and they're always lending themselves to the arts. I want to give a special shout out to Ashley Shelton, who is their executive director and could not be here today, but she's on the panel somewhere working hard. We have our other sponsors who we would do, if you can wave your hand, we'll do a group picture after the event. Doris Brown, Safe, Hopeful, Healthy, Dr. James Gilmore, the Origin Hotel, Village Kids, 100 Black Men, Metropolitan Baton Rouge, 100 Black Women of Metropolitan Baton Rouge, Delta Sigma Theta, Sorority Incorporated, Baton Rouge Delta, Compassion Design, those beautiful graphics that you see. We also have Top Ladies of Distinction, if you're present, Hunter Legal, Impact Nurse Consultant, Friends of Capitol Park, Ms. Etta Harris. We have patron sponsorship because we'd like everybody to help us, which is our board members, Judge Nagana Lewis, Dr. Sheila Lewis, Dr. Leah Collins, Mary Thomas, Aaron Gaines, Alicia Thomas, Terica Jameson, and Patricia Gilmore. Give a round of applause to all of our sponsors. I truly believe in getting down to what we're here for, especially when it's a discussion and a intentional operation here. We're here for Black History Month. We want to be energized and connected to advocacy and be motivated to give back to our community. You are in North Baton Rouge. If you never knew how you got here, it took a little minute to get here. I was raised and born about 2 minutes from here, and I love Glen Louisiana. It's a city. So, welcome to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, also known as Glen Louisiana, here in this area. This is Glen High School, a local public school that we have worked very hard to maintain and to keep in the community as a neighborhood high school. And so when you have an opportunity to work with Black businesses, so all of our vendors today are Black businesses. This is Simply Decor, who's done our decoration for the whole event today. We had something at noon. We have Mad Venue Entertainment, who's done our videography and our live streaming. Mr. Terrence Turner. We also have many partners that have worked with us. And so if you have an opportunity, take this time to give back to our community and to recycle the Black dollar if you can. You can, because I know you spend lots of money, and we're one of the #1 consumers. Thank you, Ella. Consumers in the community. You spend it for us, and people spend it for us. So, you're here to hear a speaker, and so I'm going to let Attorney Rokia Morris, come and introduce our speakers at this time. Well, nope. We do the video. Video at this time, if you can go to the screen.
just to fill out the class, I use a common black hat, and I've also released on my own with the class at the university.
One of those houses that we visited was one of the houses that I visited. And I got interested. I was very recommended. I learned a lot of things. I had some of my friends and I made connections. So I was able to do it.
I just most definitely should jump into it. It'll help you see more than what you used to, and it'll help open your eyes to what is offered all over the place other than what you see at home.
I would highly recommend it because it's a wonderful experience and it's a lot for a kid like me to learn and to see how agencies actually are and how colleges are not about having fun, but it is about business and they have lots and lots of resources and stuff at agencies.
This opportunity allowed my daughter to go and explore the different universities to see if it was actually what the pros and the cons were. She was able to find out about the different organizations that both colleges offered. She was also able to find out about the majors that the college offered because of course, Judge Green has made them aware that it's very important for you to know what it is that you are going to college for, and just to make sure that you're making the best decision in regards to where you want to apply and where you want to be.
In 2017, I found the Imagination League for 3 reasons. One, I love literature, so I wanted to promote literacy in the African American community in any way possible. 2, I wanted to expose young people as well as communities of color to culture and Black history and give them cultural awareness. And then 3, I wanted to provide an opportunity for leadership development for women of color. So working with young ladies that looked like sessions at high schools and in churches after school with young women. That was a curriculum that we created with an African American base. It looks like book festivals and entrepreneur opportunities to speak. It looks like Black History and Juneteenth speaker series. What it is also an opportunity to expose young people to historically Black colleges and universities. I am more than elated to provide the passions that I have for those in my community. So that's why I found the Imagination League.
So thank you for the opportunity to report and meet different people and make connections. Thank you.
That allowed me to be able to go on and go and participate in the agency tour. I mean, going over that, she told me she wanted me to come in the tour and told me she wanted to get to this with a prairie. I told her, nah, I don't want to go there. And I thought it was all for myself, to be honest. I thought it was back in Mississippi. But once we got to Texas, once we got out there, and I got to feel it, and it told me that it's actually something that I would like to get over.
So it is wonderful opportunity.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to introduce, give you a little bit about our speakers today. First, we have
Tanya Bolden-Ball, who holds a Master of Science in Leadership from the Grand Canyon University and a Bachelor of General Studies from the University of Louisiana, Lafayette. She earned certificates in life coaching and diversity and inclusion programs from various institutions and is a certified John C. Maxwell coach, trainer, and speaker. She's the owner of TDB Collective, where she specializes in professional speaking, training, life coaching, and consulting. Tanya currently serves as a regional director of the Diversity and Inclusion for a healthcare program, for a healthcare system. Some of our awards and recognitions, just to name a few, because there are many, include the Louisiana Association for Educators Human and Civil Rights Trailblazer Honoree, the Daily Advisor Top 20 Under 40 Leadership Award, the Kiwanis Southwest Citizen of the Year, and she was also the Lafayette Marshal for the Mardi Gras Parade for this year's festival as well. Her community and volunteer involvement spans over 20 years in the Lafayette area. For 10 years, she has been hosting the annual Community Cares Holiday Care Package Drive. She is a mentor for the University of Louisiana Lafayette's Black Women Leadership Association and one of the mentors for the University of Louisiana Lafayette's women's basketball team. She also hosts a radio segment on Magic 104.7 and 95.5. Her leadership involvement includes many organizations where she serves as the immediate past president of the University of Lafayette's Christiana Smith African American Alumni President. She is currently the president of the Lafayette chapter of Delta Sigma Theta. She is also a proud wife and mother of two. And she currently serves on the Louisiana Women's Policy and Research Commission and to the UL Lafayette's College of Business Administration Executive Council, Advisory Council. Our second speaker for today is Lurie Daniel Favors, or Lurie Daniel Favors, I apologize. She is the host of the Lurie Daniel Favors Show on Sirius XM Urban View Channel 126. Ms. Favors also brings a wealth of knowledge and expertise on racial and social justice to the airwaves. She started off her legal career as an attorney, and she is currently the executive director of the Center for Law and Social Justice of the Medgar Evers College. Before completing law school, she co-founded the Sankufa Community Empowerment Corporation. She later co-founded Breaking the Cycle Consulting Services, where she specializes in creating comprehensive professional development for educators, youth education programs, family engagement workshops, and designed to address crisis in the urban education through the use of cultural responsive teaching. She is also a contributing author to The Birth of a Nation, Nat Turner, and The Making of the Movement, and she penned The Afro State of Mind, Memories of a Nappy-Headed Black Girl. Ms. Favors adheres to the West African principle of Sankufa and believes that one should use the past in order to understand the present and build for a brighter future. Both of our speakers today are also members of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. But please give a round of applause for those speakers that we have here today.
Good evening. Now we're going to try that again. She said give a round of applause, but I heard 2 rounds. All right. Because I drove over the river and through the woods from Lafayette to I-10, didn't get a ticket, there is a God. Well, happy Black History Month. You know, I'm still bothered we have the shortest month of the year, so that's why I'm thinking send me a word. It's like, oh, here she goes. Every bulletin board, cafeteria, vending machine got some blackness on it, and I dare them to take it off. So we're about to have a conversation. I'm so excited and honored to speak to be able to have a conversation with my soror. Hey, boo. All right. The brilliance which is black, because this is what she is. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So, with a move to rewrite and remove history, and if you're not familiar with it, all you have to do is Google. That movement is very real. As African Americans and allies, what part do we play to ensure that it is still relevant?
Thank you for the question, and thank you all for the invitation to spend time with you today. I am so grateful and appreciate it. And I just want to give a special thank you to Judge Erica. You are just absolutely amazing, and I'm just so blessed by everything that I've been able to experience here. So I like to keep it real. And I hope I have your permission to continue that tradition today. We have to remind ourselves that they weren't really teaching Black history before they started the book bans. And in fact, most schools did not have any Black history curriculum to speak of prior to us becoming aware that there was this movement underfoot. And I think this moment, oftentimes you don't realize the value of something until it's been taken away. And this moment, I think, is alerting a lot of us who have been lulled to sleep. I identify as a member of Gen X. I'm like right on the board of Gen X and millennialhood. And all I've known is integration. And I do not have the firsthand experience that a lot of our elders had when it came to seeing signs that say no N-words allowed, no dogs allowed. And so the idea that we would always be moving towards progress was just sort of generally accepted. And I think the current racial environment has made it clear that that is not necessarily the case. And that's similar to what our ancestors experienced, and I mentioned this earlier today, similar to what our ancestors experienced at the end of Reconstruction, which was the first integration era in this country. We are seeing now what it looks like when the legal pillars that uphold racial integration are being removed. When it comes to the book bans, I think one of the examples that we have coming out of Florida, a very powerful one is, Florida was sort of ground zero. Ron did not speak, which is what I tend to call him, but I may be in nonpartisan spaces, so I'll try to behave myself. Ron DeSantis, when he and groups like Mom's Trilogy, whose meeting I've had a chance to attend when they came to New York City, when they got started, one of the things that was clear was that they were going to be very intentional, they were highly organized, and very well funded. And they've had a lot of success, and what we've seen in response is there have been a number of churches, for example, a number of sororities and fraternities, for example, that have responded by saying, okay, so what we cannot allow is this. And they have begun teaching Black history on Sundays. They've begun teaching Black history at Saturday school. They've begun having voter registration and Black history lessons. You've got entire organizations right now that are popping up to make sure they are filling in gaps which were already there. But now that the legal framework for filling them has come under threat, we're seeing a different sort of response. So for me, the responsibility that we now face is to recognize that this is, I want to say this lovingly,
Just say it.
it's on us, because they don't care. They don't care, they don't mind. You all right now have a governor who has said, y'all don't need food for your children. You don't need, what is it, a couple $13 million, $22 million? The number escapes me. You don't need money for your children who are hungry. But what you do need is a 24-point criminal justice reform package that's going to take us back to pre-Jim Crow. And so when we're seeing how intentional the organizing effort is, and how intentional, it's very shocking for those of us who only know integration. It's like, what do you mean we're not going to progress together? What do you mean you prefer to have the law used to set us up such that we are segregated in a Jim Crow hierarchy? And so I am currently, this is what we're doing with our team at the Center for Law and Social Justice at Medgar College. This is conversations that we're having in all the organizing spaces I'm in, thinking about what were our ancestors forced to do when the Northern troops pulled out of the South, when a rampage of white nationalist, terrorist, racist lynching campaigns and violence was unleashed, when you had millions of Black people trying to leave the South and couldn't, trying to migrate, that great migration, and then you had folks up north saying, wait a minute, it ain't that much better here than it is down there. What were our ancestors forced to do? They could not rely on other people. There was no grant application or portal for them to submit. There was no running water for them to tap into. There was no infrastructure for them to go to. And they had to build cities, towns, out of thin air. But they did it because we are capable of responding to our own needs when we believe that we can, and when pathways into other people providing for those needs are no longer available to us. So for me, it's a very long-winded answer to your question. For me, as soon as we are reminded of the fact that we created math and science, we created architecture, we created complex formulas that people to this day cannot crack. And by we, I mean we as people of African descent. And so when we remind ourselves of that, and when we realize what's at risk, then we also realize that if no one else cares, and the alternative is to lay down and die, or do for self, I'm a firm believer in the quantum principles. Once we tap into Umoja, unity, once we tap into Kujichagulia, self-determination, once we tap into Ujima, collective work and responsibility, then we can get to Ujapan where we share the money, because it's still sensitive for some of us. Then we can tap into our Kaumba, our creativity. We can walk in our Nia, our purpose, and then we can stand in our Imani, our faith. Forget a book ban, they gotta hope we don't take over their institutions. But we need us to be reminded of that power, because for the past, from 1964 until now, I will actually say something from 1954, with the Brown vs. Board of Education until now, our pathways to success have been in accessing white spaces. When those doors close, and we also have to unpack what it is about what we went through that made that desirable. That's a topic for another question, perhaps. But when we are clear on that, it doesn't matter what they do, because they become invisible and we become focused on us.
The doors of the church are now open. So, Your Honor, I'm taking notes up here, okay? Something you just said, and we'll get to the next question. Remind us of our power. I can't wait till we get to a point where we're waiting on February to remind us of our power. You know, I love Rosa, MLK, but there's so much more, and we become complacent about our power and allow them to tell us, this is where you shall sit. And some of us still have the back of the bus mentality, but I'm sorry, moving on. As someone that has seen disparity, and now the legal attack on the Fairness Fund, I encourage all of you to please read up on that. It's a venture capital firm that backs up
freedom of living. Is that we know that they're dying at disproportionate rates, but who do you think you are, creating more information to help you get up off of the birthing bed and live in that relationship? And we're seeing example after example after example of this, again, very highly, the group that got rid of the affirmative action.
confronted recognizing that race was going to be the issue that rendered this nation apart. And they're now saying, no, we're going to go back to the first step. And we're going to make sure that there are no race considerations. They're going to make sure that there is nothing that you can rely on. This is the environment we're in, which is why I say we are seeing the dismantling of integration similar to what happened during Reconstruction. To the fearless one, we have to be clear that there are reasons why most organizations, corporate organizations, are all white by default. They don't put it in their website that we're just hiring white men. They don't put it on their social media. They don't have a meeting about it. It's not going out in the newsletter that they're just hiring white men. But they all seem to make the same sorts of decisions that center themselves. And then tell us we didn't meritoriously earn a position into their institution, which is why they're not hiring us. And in this current environment, we are going to have to be clear that if you do put on your website, I am here for black women, I am here for black men, and you're getting funding for that, then you are going to be facing some challenges. I'm wondering if we are able, and I know that we are, but I guess I should say I'm wondering when we will begin having a similar focus. I don't have to put on the Center for Law and Social Justice website that I'm only hiring culturally competent black people. It's understood. It's clear. It's a given. We shouldn't have to have a conversation that we're specifically looking for black people, we're specifically seeking to invest in black people. It should be a given. But it's going to require us to create the institutional space, that Ubuntu space that we were talking about earlier today, community space where we can get from our babies to our elders on the same page. We may have issues with each other. We may not all like each other. But we are here to invest unapologetically, and we don't have to be loud about it. And I hate that we have to go this way, but similar to what our ancestors had to do at the end of Reconstruction, they could no longer go out and freely vote the way they had from 1865 until 1877. They could no longer participate in the body politic the way that they had. They had to adjust to the realities of the time. And this is going to be an opportunity, a moment, if you will, that if we are intentional about getting on the same page, if we create the institutional structures that will allow us to stay on the same page, and I'm happy to talk about what some of those things look like, then we are going to have to remind ourselves, as one of my favorite law professors, Derek Bell, used to say in his interest convergence theory, we have to be clear that in this society, historically, white Americans have only advanced the interests of black people to the extent that it was beneficial to them. And as soon as advancing the interests of black people was no longer beneficial to them, historically, and this is not being hyperbolic, let the record reflect your own. As soon as it is no longer beneficial to them, that effort will cease. And access to those rights will end. So we have to factor that into our analysis. We have to factor it into our community organizing. And we have to create, in addition to the organizing spaces that we already occupy, meeting grounds. So we transition from working in silos to working as perhaps disparate parts of the same body.
I'm going to close the doors to the church again. I mean, they're open. Something you just said, and it made me think about the intentionality of our collective power, which creates collective impact. We haven't gotten to that point yet, because when they see our collective power, that's when they become scared and nervous. And something else you just said, after the murders of George Floyd and so many others, so many companies started putting on their website, let me put at least that one black person they can see. But you better look beyond. And I've been telling communities for quite a long, ask questions. Some of my mentees, when they're graduating from college and they're looking, to get with this employer, that you have to ask questions. Go beyond the website. Now, don't be surprised if you don't get the job because you didn't ask the question and it irritates, but at least get the lesson now. So, with that being said, given the large scale of efforts to dissuade black voter participation, and this is a question I cannot wait to ask because I'm Mississippi born, Louisiana raised. I feel as though Fannie Lou Hamer was my auntie I just never met. The fact the voter apathy exists strongly in the South, where statewide success isn't common, considering Stacey Abrams, Mike F.C., and our very own governor's race. Okay, back to the script. How do we encourage, engage, and excite our voter base outside of presidential and gubernatorial elections? And for the record, our track record for our gubernatorial race is terrible. It really sucks. So how do we encourage, engage, and excite our voters outside of presidential elections? Don't feel bad. Our voter turnout in New York City is abysmal too.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it's abysmal. We had, I think the black community, we had maybe 23, 24% turnout in the last election. And we were working. And I know a lot of you were working in these past elections, and so to see the outcome, it hurts, right? It stings. However, one of the things that we have seen, and I would just offer this, I don't know that intimately the dynamics of the neighborhood and the community that we're in, but one of the things that I have seen in a variety of spaces is that if I start off a conversation with an already disaffected, marginalized, underserved, and historically sabotaged community, if I start with, well, did you fill out your voter registration? The election's coming up. Y'all got a lot of elections every year, from what I understand. You get like 4 or 5 elections a year. Nobody cares. They're tuning out. This is and we have to be clear, from 1619 until 1964, we could be killed for having this conversation. Yep. We had to sneak out into the woods and whisper real loud about how to braid our hair appropriately so we could get to freedom and maybe one day build a community of independent black people. We had to sneak out into the woods and hope that nobody snitched. Yeah. Right? Hope that nobody sold us out. And that's from 1619 until 1964. Now, the last time I did this, I did it without using my calculator, so I messed up the numbers. Math and I are still getting me acquainted. That's like 346 years of intentional, proactive sabotage and proactive exclusion from participating in the body politic. Of course we don't turn out to vote. We just got the right 60 years ago. And ever since we got the right 60 years ago, they have been doing everything they can to call on name black Jesus to take it away from us. And so when you think about that, and I always like to remind people, not only were we from 1964 until now, and of course before that, you had, Septima Clark, who was using the Constitution to teach people how to read, talk about intersectionality in a whole other way. But when you think about it beyond that, even when we got access, that's 340 some odd years that our white colleagues, brothers and sisters and families and friends were building institutions. They were organizing political clubs. They created the rules to fundraising. They knew how to get money from bucket A to bucket B to fund the candidate in part C. They were clear about what it meant to have a committee. They created the structure that we are consistently trying to learn, and they changed the rules so constantly. Of course we don't participate. So if I start in a high school classroom, if I start in a room full of grown folk with, you got a right to vote, but our ancestors died. I don't know if you've met anyone in Gen Z, they don't care. And I have to be intentionally disrespectful about it because the language has to adjust to the needs of the people. They don't care. Half of them might not even know what you mean when you say ancestors. So let's be clear about the disconnect. But if I ask them, what are the 3 things that you love the most about your community? And we have a beautiful conversation. What are the 3 most challenging issues in your community? And then we have an intense conversation. They all have opinions. Everybody loves something about the community, and everybody looks at something in the community that they can't stand. And if we start the conversation there was a discussion earlier today about folks that have a blue tarp on their roof. And we start the conversation in these spaces where people are able to speak to what they see that's going right and what they see that's going wrong. Then we back into how what is going wrong is connected to the distribution of political power. It's a different conversation. So when I'm talking with young people in Brownsville, or Bethesda, or South Bronx, and we're talking about the things that they don't like, and policing is always a thing. Gang violence and guns are always a thing. And so we'll pick on policing, because that's an easy topic. And we'll talk about what they don't like about policing, the way they get hemmed up all the time, the way the police just come and just can take them for the whole weekend, and can't nobody get them out because they're being held. And this is a common occurrence for young people. And then we ask them, well, who told the police to police like that? And then we look at the power map. We're like, wait a minute, the police precinct culture is set by the captain of the precinct. And then, well, who tells the captain that that's what they want to see in the street? And then we back our way up to the police commissioner. Well, how'd she get her job? We just had a woman police commissioner. How did they get that job? Oh, they're appointed by the mayor. How did the mayor get his job? Oh, okay. So yes, we're going to protest. Yes, we're gonna do all the things that we also do. And in addition to that, we're gonna also vote. We're not gonna make voting the main topic of the conversation because again, we don't care.
because we don't see the connection. But voting is going to be, as I said today, maybe step 7 in a 10 to 15 step process to get what it is that we want. And once we start securing some victories, once we start securing some wins, then you have not just created lifelong voters or people who are willing to be engaged in civics, but they also come away from this idea that voting is it. So many of us are like, wow, did you vote? Did you vote? Did you vote? And it's like, no, voting is good. But it's 364 other days of the year where organizing and activation can be happening. So for me, my approach is to never start a conversation with a disaffected people about why their ancestors died for the rights. Well, now I will say this. Our ancestors were not dying for the right to vote because they wanted a piece of apple pie, fireworks, and Americana.
Come on now.
They were voting because if the sheriff is also the grand dragon of the Ku Klux Klan, you kind of want to have a say as to who the sheriff is to be. If the tax assessor, which they no longer have in a lot of jurisdictions, but if the tax assessor is someone who can take the value of your home in an instant, and that person is voted into office, well then it's important for you to understand how those decisions get made and to act accordingly. But I do think it is important for us to come away from this idea that there's glory in voting, that it makes us better Americans, because Gen Z, again, have you met them? They do not care. And zero, what you just said, I'm having confidence.
And we live, so
yeah. So yeah, that's how I would approach that. And I would shy away from, and I know we aren't doing this in this room, but there are so many of us who blame our community for not showing up. And when you unpack it and approach it differently, we won't just show up, we'll shut it down. And we can do so effectively.
So a little segue, I was listening to one of your podcasts. Imagine being elected mayor and you can't leave your city. Imagine being shut out of the bank account. You can't check the city's mail, and now you have to sue. Can you elect? When I listened to that, I was like, oh my goodness. Can you share a little bit of that with them?
Well, I've said this in a couple of different ways. Is there one in particular too?
Is it in Alabama? He's suing.
Oh, yes. So, gentleman in Alabama wins the election in a town that had not had election for 60 years. Think about that. Think about that. Had not had elections for 60 years in America. This is Alabama, in America, right? I just want to remind you this is in America. And the power would just be passed around to the white leadership of the country in a town that was 85% black. And he becomes mayor, had the first election. He forced them to have an election, went to court, understood the system, forced them to have an election. And the minority of white leadership in that city closed him out of the bank accounts, changed the locks on the mayor's office. He was completely shut out of power. Now they're going to court, and they're doing a lot of things. And this came to my awareness right before the Montgomery Brawl, the chair, the folded chair, you know, the cat signal. And it was an amazing moment, right? So for me, I reveled. I did. When I saw the hat fly, I was like, oh, it's going to go down the chair. I do not encourage violence at all. But it touched me, okay? The moment touched something in my heart. And it was something to see that physical display of instantaneous unity. I mean, the young boys swimming across the water. I mean, the elders, the older brothers, it was everybody. And all of us sort of collectively rejoiced in the moving on. So as that's happening, just, 60, 70 miles up the road, this black man is locked out of being able to effectively lead this predominantly black city. And so while I love the moment, I've had some sister friends who bought the earrings, a folding chair, it captured the imagination. I would love for that same energy to go into asserting, I don't even want to say defending, proactively inserting our power in key spaces. And I think it's easy for us to envision what it's like to physically engage, but I want us to be mindful of the fact that we are also intellectual warriors. And we have the ability, when we're on the same page, and again, this gets back to the institutional spaces that allow us to come together, they won't be able to do that anymore. However, going back again, I said hope is in my bio because I believe that if we do not look to the past to understand the present, we certainly cannot hope for the future. They have done this before and locked us out. That period after Reconstruction, after that 1877 compromise where they pulled those troops out, we were intentionally and explicitly and holistically locked out of accessing power in spaces where there was diversity of community. And so we have to look again at what our ancestors did in those moments. And they had to build their own towns, which they did so beautifully. They had to build their own schools. Back to the first question, they had to build their own post offices, their own railroads, their own roads on the ground. They had to do for self. And when I was in college, we used to play spades and have debates. We should do for ourselves. So when FUBU was big, well, let's buy us. Yes, well, let's buy us. And it was all intellectual, masturbative discourse. And now I would suggest we have to revisit those conversations because it is going to make the difference between our ability to meet our needs and not.
So that energy we put into whether we're going to cut that deck with the, that spade or whatever, we need to bring that over to other arenas. Some of y'all know what I'm talking about, yeah. Most of you are familiar about the book bans started from a small group of people following suit. The effect of this has impacted our schools and diversity in learning. If you can't learn or read about other countries, Black folks, LGBTQ groups, and have accurate accounts of our stories, or just can't read because of a theme in the book, how can we address culturally responsible education?
So I'm sorry, I like to take notes when the spirit is moving. Okay. So again, we weren't getting the education we deserved prior. It just so happens now that, and there were 11 people, not 11%, 11 people in the state of Florida who were responsible for banning 60% of the books. I attended, as I mentioned earlier, one of the Moms for Liberty meetings. Are y'all familiar with Moms for Liberty? Okay. So they came to New York City on the Upper West Side. So me and my sister friends, we organized under a group loosely, and this is one of our key organizations, but we loosely organized under the label Parenting While Black, because our kids were all going through the same thing, and we were trying to navigate school spaces. So we were like, girl, you see they coming? It's like, they coming. And text messages were flying back. So we're like, well, we could protest outside, but I want to go inside. I want to hear what they're talking about. I want to see what they're doing. And I'm so glad that we went, because the level, again, when you're really good at being evil, it's impressive. Like, there's something very impressive about people who are so clear-eyed and single-minded about their absolute disregard, disdain, and utter disgust with their opposition. And one of the things that it reminded me of, and I shared a little bit about this earlier today, was I was in law school when one of my white friends, he was like, dude, we're having this conversation about diversity. He's like, dude, totally for diversity, like totally. I mean, come on. I mean, I read about you, like, dude. And he's like, but like I learned in Hebrew school. I can't worry about you if like my needs aren't being met. So I was like, Hebrew school. Say more. What is this? And he explains to me this institution. Remember, I referenced institutions that we own and operate, that can't nobody else infiltrate or dictate to us what is learned there, our own institutions. And he explains to me this concept of Hebrew school, where in some places it's every day, some places it's once a week, depending on what the resources the local Jewish community has. And they go to the regular school. So they're not trying to create new schools. Creating a school is hard. Like dealing with state regulations for schools is extraordinarily difficult. I know you all have a lot of charter schools here, but there's a lot to that. And they are constantly beholden to the dictates of the school board. You don't have as much control in that space as you might in a Hebrew school. So the children attend regular school during the day. They go through that process, but then they go to the Hebrew schools where they learn how to sing their songs. They learn how to speak in their language. They learn their history from their perspective, not a whitewashed version that may never even come up in school. They talk about and debate their challenges and their issues, and it's a phenomenal space. And then when they turn 13 and have their bat mitzvah or their bar mitzvah, then they are sort of embraced and welcomed into adulthood. And I was very interested about this process, and many, many years ago, I had a chance to speak with this elder Jewish woman. Her name is Miss Gladys. And I was like, Miss Gladys, I love this concept of Hebrew schools. I just don't know, how do you get, Jewish kids to like it? Because I want to do something similar for Black kids, but what happens, when they don't like it? How do you get them to be excited about it? She goes, dear, nobody likes Hebrew school. I was like, Miss Gladys, but everybody that I know who's Jewish went to some sort of Hebrew school. She said, we don't trust them to like it. We incentivize it. So in addition to learning all of those things, savings, you might also have somebody who's a financier from the community who will explain stock brokerage accounts. And then maybe someone in the community will donate $25 to all the children, and they'll go online together, learn how to open up an account, learn how to engage in trade, learn how to grow wealth. And as a result of this experience, my friend at law school was crystal clear, totally for diversity. But he's going to take care of his first. And he didn't have any gumption about saying it. He didn't feel like, well, we should also, no shame whatsoever. And I want us to be bold like that. So when it comes to my vision of this, I would like to do, are y'all familiar with freedom schools?
Yep.
I love freedom schools. I love freedom schools. When I was prior to law school, when I was in Pittsburgh, we helped to open up the first freedom school in the city of Pittsburgh. And it is the closest I have seen to what an African-centered Saturday school could be. Or an African school. We created African-centered Saturday school. It doesn't have to be Saturday, it can be every day. But when we do that, and we stop relying on a system that has never once in its existence ever demonstrated the capacity to see our humanity, let alone value it, when we create those institutions for ourselves, when we are crystal clear that if we have to ask outside groups, love them, but when we have to ask them to fund it, support it, sustain it, not veto it, approve it, allow it, concede to it, it is not a solution because of what Derek Bell told us about interest convergence theory. So this notion that we can look to other people to provide for our children what we only can provide them is something that this moment of book bans, it has disturbed that belief. And I think this is an opportunity. And I'm excited about it because when a door closes, entire fields can open up. And I think if we navigate this space correctly, we will be able to do for our children what we thought somebody else should have been doing. And frankly, we pay taxes, so we get it. But my Jewish friends, his family had no expectation that this government was going to provide that sort of education for their children. I'll end this point with this. When we, before we got married, we were very black. And we wanted to get married in a very black space. My mother's from Jamaica, my husband's family's from California. We had people here, Brooklyn, London. I mean, it was all, we couldn't really find a place. We wanted to be married someplace back. So we were like, what about the Gullah area? We can go there. We were excited. And as a part of that tour, we went to Savannah. And I don't know if it's still there. This is, 24, 25 years ago. No, sorry, 20 years ago. We got together 25. Okay, right, sorry. It's in my head. Gotta get the numbers right. Don't let my husband see that clip. We were driving through Savannah, and 20-some years ago, Savannah looked very different than I'm sure it does now. And we're driving through the community. It's clearly our community. Like, we didn't get any signs that say this black community. It's clearly our community. But as we're driving, I don't know the name of the street, but all of a sudden I saw a lawn, like grass, like alongside where we were driving. And I'm like, this is beautiful green grass. It just sort of popped up out of nowhere. Because again, we were in our space where there was not a whole lot of grass. And I looked and set far back. It was massive front lawn. Set far back was a building with Hebrew letters on it. And I was like, yo, even in Savannah, Georgia, they have a Hebrew institution. I was so impressed because that's what we should have for ourselves. Everywhere we go, we should see ourselves empowered, unattached to white permission to sit in those spaces. And so this moment for me is a real turning point, similar to 1877, because them banning books, and now Marxism is falling apart. I don't know if you've seen them. It's really hard to sustain people for too long. I mean, they're really good at it, but it's hard to sustain. So now they're falling apart. A number of chapters are diminishing, but they almost don't need a chapter because they're on code. They're on mission. And I believe when we get to that space for us, we will be able to do for us what we thought others should do. Now we realize there's no way that they could, and because we will have been able to do that from a space of centering us, there will be no limit for what we can do for our children when we get into that space.
Yeah, round of applause. Speaking of centering us, I want your thoughts on the following 4 words. Accountability. Accountability. Oh, we're going to talk about this question. Accountability and Black leadership. Your thoughts. Somebody said, oh.
So my 4 words would be, we lack accountability and infrastructure. We, in New York City, we now have a Black man who used to be a Republican, member of the NYPD for many, many years. And I, in my individual capacity, had have seen and observed decisions coming out of City Hall that if the mayor were a white man, we'd have organized 50-11 protests. We would have shut it down. We would have insisted absolutely not. Black Lives Matter. We would have done it all. However, as a community, we lack accountability infrastructure. We lack the language. A lot of it, we saw it a lot with President Barack Obama. We were very protective. And, even there were things that did not, many of us may not have liked, but we were not going to speak those things out loud. And if you did, the rest of the community might look at you like, oh, this is a black president. I don't know, we waited for this. You can't talk like that. It was Sham and the kids. It was like Black Camelot. It was like, you can't speak about this. And there is such a protective nature that we have for Black elected officials that I believe, in my current experience, works to our detriment. So I talked to a sister friend of mine, I was like, I feel like we need a movement. Like, what would we do if he was white? Because if it's the same reaction, then it's fine, it's no problem. But if we know we respond differently to elected officials and the actions that they take if they were white as compared to how we act when they are black, we have to question that because the leadership is a reflection of the people that either voted for them or didn't vote and they ended up in power by virtue of us staying home. And so when it comes to representation, I love representation. Doesn't it feel good to see people who look like you and they kind of talk like the same language and they eat the same foods and in my community they put salt on the grits, not sugar, whatever, we don't have to fight about it. It feels really, really good. But representation matters is an incomplete statement. Representation matters for what? Because we got to fill in the for what. Because if we're just happy with seeing black people get high-paying jobs, well, that's fine. I'm getting ready to fly back tomorrow. I'm going to Albany. We have our legislative Black, Puerto Rican, Hispanic, and Asian Legislative Caucus. It's a conference that happens every year, and that is the full name. It's a conference that happens every single year. Tons of black leadership. We have a black attorney general of the state of New York. Shout out to Tish James, however, for the phenomenal victory she got today in the court against former president. I'm sorry, I love her, so I'm just very glad that she was able to score that victory. And shout out to Connie Lewis, and all that she has experienced. If you don't know what I'm talking about, please go online. It's there. Black women showing up for the community. But one of the things we're struggling with is how to hold our community accountable when they get these wonderful jobs, when they're elected to these positions, and how do we turn representation into a shift in benefits. So at the Center for Law and Social Justice, we envision a sophisticately educated black electorate that is sufficiently organized that we can secure not just the needs that we have or the resources that we need to meet our needs, but the political representation that is going to translate into something. I don't just need you to have a good job. And unfortunately, for a lot of us, we look at black elected officials kind of like we look at the pastor, and we deify them, and it's like, oh, here comes this representative so-and-so, and I'm all for deference. I have no problem with deference and respecting the hierarchy of authority. But what have you done for us lately? Besides change the name of the street, besides resolutions, what are the concrete benefits that we now have that we did not have prior to you getting there? And part of the way that we shift this lack of accountability infrastructure is that as we have those conversations about voting, that's not really about voting, it's about voting, we have to also teach our community that a campaign is like an interview process. You interview for a job. You might have 1, 2, 3 public rounds of interviews. You might interview with a couple different people on each panel. The election is the hiring decision. By a show of hands, how many of you have ever gotten a job and never received an evaluation? 1, 2. Okay. So pretty much everybody else, if you get a job, you're going to be evaluated. If you do something wrong at that job, how many of you have done something wrong, made a mistake, either an unintentional mistake, and no one ever addressed it with you? Right. So when we are looking at the actual working out of what it means to be elected in that position, we are supposed to be evaluating what they've done. It's not that we got you there, oh, look at our guy. Oh, they look good, you like me. Everybody stand up, sing Black National Anthem. General, I'm elected official. We have to be able to say, this is how our lives were concretely improved as a result of you being in this space. Otherwise, the hiring committee has decided we're going to have to move in another direction at the next opportunity to make a hire. And that re-election campaign, that's where we employ what we learned during the evaluation process. So when we're talking about voting, again, it's not just that day. It can't just be that thing. It's about how voting factors into a system of civic engagement that says part of our responsibility, not as like a part of Americana, but as a part of thinking people who live in a community that needs fresh water and clean air and good schools for our kids. As part of that group, we have to be clear that our leadership has to be held to account in a way that says, now we love you, sis. We love you, bro. We got a seat for you at the church. Your seat is still there. However, you have been ineffective in this role, and we're going to lovingly bring someone else into this space. But that's a part of culture shift that I think is very important.
And I want to close with this question. When we're done singing the ritualistics, we shall overcome, and lift every voice and sing, and some of us still don't know the words, but we lift in the voice and still singing the wrong words. What should be next for us?
What does the community need? Meet it. What does the community need? Let's figure it out. And one of the reasons I like that approach is because I believe in small victories. Because small victories fuel bigger things. A lot of times we want to, shoot for the stars. Well, let's get off the grass first. Like, let's jump high enough to stay in the air, just right in the space for a little bit. And yeah, we'll shoot for the stars. But if we can get the small wins, we ask ourselves, what does the community need? And then we organize ourselves to secure it, again, without looking to outside groups, institutions, or funding and resources. And I'm saying that for all y'all filming, philanthropic community, I still want the resources. Let's be clear. Okay? I'm just saying. Then we determine what is necessary, and we figure out a plan, recognizing that we are the oldest people on the planet. Society and civilization does not exist without us. And when we are reminded of our own power and believe in it, and we meet the need, and then we determine, well, what else does the community need? And then we meet it. Because guess what? Ain't nobody meeting them needs for us right now anyway. So why would we wait and expect someone else to resolve what they have clearly, for 400 some odd years, demonstrated they have absolutely no interest in navigating? But we do, and we are the only ones who do. What's good about that is that we're the only ones that we need when we are confidently reminded of our history, when we are taking a Sankofa journey that says we're looking at a past to evaluate what we have right now, planning for the future. It should not be a surprise to any of us that integration is ending. They did it before. Octavia Butler is one of my favorite authors, and one of the things I used to say was, Octavia Butler is a prophet. And Dr. Greg Carr, who is the head of the Africana Studies Department at Howard University, when he was like, no, she wasn't a prophet. She just studied history. If you knew what they did, you know what they're going to do. They're not original. It's the same playbook. The difference is we are trying to create a freedom that we've never seen in this space. So while they are just flipping pages, they're trying to get free. Hold on, no. I remember, they did this in 1765. It's right here. I know exactly what to do. They're looking at an old playbook. We are writing the book, building the plane as we fly it. Fortunately, we have African genius to draw on, so that's a pretty okay place to be.
Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, the brilliant, which is Black, Lurie Daniel Davis.
Well, thank y'all for very much for honoring the mind that she has, for honoring the legacy that she represents. Sometimes we just kind of miss it and never realize that the people are right before us and the opportunities that we can gain, and lessons we can gain, are right in front of us as well. I hope you are, one, educated from the conversation, empowered from the conversation, and then I always hope that you are liberated in the process. We have to be free in who we are, unapologetic about who we are, and that takes a little intentionality sometimes. That doesn't mean just host the program. It means bring the program to the people where they are. I'm sure we could have gotten more people if we did it at the Shaw Center. I'm sure we could have gotten more people if we put it on another campus or something like that. But this is the area that I felt we needed to come to. And the partners, I am grateful for you. I'm grateful for our moderator. This is a token of love for being a sister friend and traveling to help us with this program. Thank you for our host speaker, amazing hostess and speaker, for sharing with us all today. And I hope that you got some Baton Rouge love in the process. I did not hand her a gift because we have been showering her since she stepped foot in Baton Rouge, making her feel special. So don't.
Take it all home. I'm gonna have
We're going to ship it to you. If you want to send us some fish, I'm trying to give a fish fry. I'm trying to give a beignet mix. I don't know if she wants it, but she's going to get it when I send it to her. I did try to give her a daiquiri. They didn't even give us that. I just want her to have Louisiana in her spirit. You know what I mean?
that part.
But we are praying for safe travels for you back to New Jersey. And that your mission and your thrust is fulfilled as you go out into the community. I pray that your mission and your thrust is fulfilled. Doesn't matter if you're in an organization or if you're working in your church, your network is your network. And the thrust that you have to push to somebody here until you connect to someone. And so my thrust is Imagination Leads. I hope that you have taken down how to connect with us. We start our HBCU tour application process. Our new chair is Miss Langley. She went with us all the way to Texas. She works with kindergartners, but she came all the way with us with high school students. And so she is chairing it this year when we're going to Tennessee. We're going to visit Tennessee State, Fisk, and Meharry, and learn about the culture in Tennessee. So if you know a young person that is going from junior year to senior year, I think this is an opportunity for them. Keep in mind that even though I picked junior year to senior year, you heard on the presentation today that they didn't even fill out applications until we took them on a tour. That's late. Their counterparts, and Ms. Riley knows this, I talked to her a lot about this, their counterparts are visiting schools in 10th grade and 9th grade. We are behind. And so this is just my way of saying, help me get some people into the next phase of their lives and help me to support them. They go on an all-paid trip. They lodge, they eat, they enjoy. And I tell them this is not a field trip, this is an experience. And so they want a field trip, they go to school and the teachers, they want an experience. You come with me. And I'm going to try to connect you to as much as I can Black things, but also trying to inspire them. I told them at the end, I don't care what school you go to, and I'm not push certain schools. I really don't care. I just want you to go to school and I want you to succeed because we need a new group of leaders. And so if you feel that vibe, please go on our website and support us. Please connect me with some kids that are ready to learn. My community partners, if you can meet me at the front, we do have gifts for you and sponsors that are listed. Again, you can give a round of applause to our speaker and our moderator and to yourself for being here. Hope you have a great year, because Black History Month is not a thing. We go all the year long, and my friends would tell you, I go all year long. Hopefully I do something for Juneteenth. If I don't, there's movies you can go see. Origin. You can go see American Fiction. There's books you can read. I can list a zillion. But I know that you can Google as well. You Google for everything else. But there's so many books that has history in it. Stop watching TV for a few minutes. We grew up with Ebony magazine and Essence magazine on our jet magazine on the counter, right? It's not on the coffee table anymore. So you have to be intentional about introducing literature and reading to your kids, to your families. And even if that's scrolling on an article, please do it. Do it for me if you don't do it for anybody else. And have a great night. Thank you again. If you want to possibly meet Ms. Favors, I'm going to situate her in this space down here. Be mindful on the touching. This is a flu season. She's going to take anything back from Louisiana that she can come with. And so, but we will, if you bring your camera down, we'll take a picture with you and have a great night. Speakers, if you can come down, I want to acknowledge one of our elected officials that is here, Devontae Lewis. He's our Public Service Commissioner.
Go,
And he's one of the plaintiffs in that suit that did the congressional map and got us a victory. And so thank you, Mr. Lewis, for all of your work. My good friend, but he's more powerful than me. I'm just a judge. Thank y'all again. Have a great night. Come down here and meet us. 100 blocks. You want to If those that are here, you can come in the